Buying tickets to sports and concerts can be way too complicated, but there is a better, simpler way to buy. SeatGeek is the smartest, easiest way to get tickets to live events. And right now, get a $20 rebate on your first purchase. Just download the SeatGeek app and enter promo code Bomani today.
Welcome to the Right Time Podcast. The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
Freddie, Coleman, and Ian Fitzsimmons, normally known as Freddie and Fitz, from 11 p. to 2 a.m. Monday through Friday. We're in for Bomani Jones today, presented by Progressive Insurance. You can always tweet the show anytime you want. The show's handle at ESPN Radio, my handle at Coleman ESPN, and Ian's handle at Ian Fitz ESPN. So Michael Bennett of the Seattle Seahawks. Ian, you touched on this last night. I touched on it as well when we had a chance to do our show in terms of sitting for the national anthem. And the one thing that a lot of people fail to realize, and you brought this up as well, it's not so much the sitting for the anthem. Plenty of people are not listening to the message that Michael Bennett and others may be trying to send that have been falling on a lot of deaf ears while they're sitting for the national anthem.
Yeah, his whole thing when he sat in the Seahawks preseason game over the weekend, and it was right after those heinous and nauseating events in Charlottesville, Virginia. It was the message that he was trying to convey was, man, we've got to get along. It was more about love than hate. But we've seen how this movie plays out when you sit or kneel during the national anthem. Fans do not understand. Most fans don't understand what you're doing. They just view it as, wait a minute, he's sitting. It's Colin Kaepernick again. He hates our military. He hates our country. And that wasn't Kaepernick's deal, and that is not Michael Bennett's deal. Bennett was trying to convey a message of we have got to get better as people. We have to be better as a society. We have to be better as a country. We need to get along. And his message was more about love than anything else. But again, we've seen this movie, Freddie, and it didn't play out well for Colin Kaepernick because the avenue of what they tried and what Kaepernick tried to do in conveying his message, his stance, which, again, I didn't agree with. But sadly, the way he went about it, I didn't agree with, sitting or kneeling for the national anthem, and along with Michael Bennett. Sadly, I don't have a better solution for them to get their message out. I have no idea what would be a better avenue. I just know this, Freddie, that this avenue is one that didn't turn out well for Colin Kaepernick. And Michael Bennett, on the 6th with Michael and Jamel yesterday was passionate, emotional. It was really moving to hear his thoughts on Charlottesville and the state of our country right now. And what he was trying to convey was a message of get along, like and love, and don't hate. And we have to try and figure out a way to come to a better place. The problem is, to get to that better place, there has to be a better avenue to try and get that message across and sitting for the national anthem because, as he mentioned, he's gotten all kinds of hate mail and death threats and whatnot. And
I'm not surprised, by the way.
And that's how that movie plays out. I wish, Freddie, I was smart enough to figure out a better avenue for these players to try and get across their message because most people today, in what you described very well, Freddie, as a 140-character world that we live in today, and what Mark Cuban describes as headline porn, all they see is Michael Bennett sits for national anthem.
Or Marshawn Lynch sitting for the national anthem.
And they don't go and read his quotes or listen to why he did it. If you actually went and listened to why he did it, you would be moved. You would be, hey, this guy, this is a loving American who's trying to make our great country better.
Well, here's the deal with that. If you go into it with an agenda, it doesn't matter what he says or how he says it. That agenda is not going to change with so many people, especially when it comes to a polarizing topic as this, sitting, kneeling, not standing for the national anthem. He also brought out something else when he was on the 6th with Michael Smith and Jamel Hill yesterday on SportsCenter, talking about what would make the protests that are going on, that still may go on, what would make them more effective?
I honestly believe that it would take a white player to be able to really get the things change, because a lot of people, when somebody from the other side understands and they step up and they speak about it, it will change the whole conversation, because you bring somebody who doesn't really have to be a part of the conversation to bringing themselves and making themselves vulnerable in front of it. And I think when that happens, things will really take a big jump.
I hate to disagree with a guy who's a lot bigger than me, but I'm going to when it comes to Michael Bennett, what he said.
Stronger and faster.
Check. When it comes to that, here's why I disagree with it, because people who hated it before are still going to hate it. You could have every white player in the National Football League do the same thing that Colin Kaepernick did and that Michael Bennett did and that Marshawn Lynch did. Can't forget about Eric Reed. And there are still going to be people that are going to hate it, period, end of story. I think the only white NFL player that could possibly do this and not get any blowback would be Captain America himself, Tom Brady. That might be the only white player in the NFL that if he decided, and remember, Tom Brady, and you can vote or root for whoever you want. He's the same guy that has a relationship with President Trump. That's not a crime as far as I'm concerned. He had a Make America Great Again hat in his locker. That's not a crime to me. But to me, and this is, and I'm not saying this strongly, but I think that would be the only one that if he decided to do that would not get any blowback.
I disagree, because if you're not a Patriots fan, most people hate the Patriots, even Captain America.
But most people love Tom Brady, though.
Do they?
Compared to the Patriots as an organization,
if you're not a Patriots fan, a lot of people even look at the Aaron footballs, the immaculate deflation. He's a cheater. I mean, people hate winners. People hate Alabama. People hate the Yankees.
But wouldn't that be the ultimate irony that if you're a quote unquote Patriot and you are going against a Patriot, if he did something like that in Tom Brady?
Hey, didn't think about that. The play on words there, Coleman. Well done, Coach.
Bow to your neighbor. Bow to your partner.
But I think he'd be vilified also. Drew Brees, vilified. Aaron Rodgers, how dare you? Because most people in the world we live in today, as the owner of the Dallas Mavericks, Mark Cuban, so eloquently put it, about a year ago, it's headline porn. Mm-hmm. They don't read the articles. They just read the headline, and they might read two sentences in, and if it's something that makes them angry or they don't agree with, then it's over, and they've already made up their mind as to how they view that particular story, stance, protest, whatever it might be. And, it's sad. Again, the 140-character world we live in.
Right.
If you go and listen to that 9-minute interview with Michael Bennett, with Michael and Jamel on the 6 yesterday, it is moving. I mean, his passion for making this country better and why he sat during the national anthem. And his dad was in the military, yep. And he made a quick point. He pointed that, look, this is not about, and he talked about how he's gotten letters and and threats and this and that, and he was very clear. This is about a direct reaction to what happened, those heinous events in Charlottesville, and he's trying to get a message across of like and love. We can't hate. We have to get better. But we've seen how that movie plays out when you sit or kneel for the national anthem. People have a perception that you are hating the military, are hating this country, and they're not going to go and listen to why you're doing it. They have to come up with another avenue. And, Freddie, sadly, I'm not smart enough to figure out what that avenue is.
Freddie, Coleman, and Fitzsimmons on the right time with Bomani Jones. Then you had John Lynch, who's now in charge of the San Francisco 49ers. When he had a chance to speak with the Bay Area News Group, he talked about all of these things, meaning sideline protests. They are completely divisive.
That's divisive, and I understand guys see things that they're not happy, and they have that right. And I think we'll always respect people's rights. That doesn't mean I believe that. I believe that this game should actually be celebrated for what it is. I think a tremendous unifier for our country and for what the way things should be. Bill Walsh used to speak about it. You take guys from all over the country, different socioeconomic backgrounds, racial backgrounds, and you have friends for life. Warren Sapp's here today working with our defensive line because he's a buddy of mine and always will be. And so those type of stories, I think, get lost in something like this, but they've got their reasons, and we'll always be respectful of those.
Here's the problem that I have with John Lynch. You should not need a national anthem to unite people. How about uniting people because people are people and you respect their differences and respect where they're coming from? You don't have to like it, but that doesn't mean you can be disunited or use a national anthem or a flag to wrap that around people to unite them. That's why I disagree with him on that one. But here's another part of that, what he said, that I don't think a lot of people talked about. John Lynch in charge of the San Francisco 49ers now. The same San Francisco 49ers team in which Colin Kaepernick knelt for the national anthem. If you're John Lynch trying to move as far away from that as possible, you're going to say everything that's anti-Colin Kaepernick so you can make sure that people who didn't want to support your team, that don't want to support you now, if you are in the same side as Colin Kaepernick, I think John Lynch made it a point to say, hey, this is supposed to unite us, but also making sure, let's make sure we keep Colin Kaepernick as far away from our organization because he's no longer part of this organization, and we don't want what happened last year to stay with us as we're trying to get this started and get this redone in San Francisco.
I don't know if that was part of it or not. I have absolutely no idea. But I do know this, that for me, the national anthem is sacred and always will be, always has been. That's just the way that I grew up and not just the way I was raised, but that's just the way I feel. I'm with Jason Garrett on that one, the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys, when he said that earlier this week. And that's why, but I will go and listen to why someone did something like Michael Bennett. Mm-hmm. And when you listen to why he did it, I applaud why he did it. I just don't – there's got to be a better avenue to try and relay what he's trying to get across with a platform that a pro athlete of his stature has. I implore you folks, if you are hating on Michael Bennett for sitting and during the national anthem,
not everybody,
and I don't like how he went about it. I don't like that, but I love what he was trying to do.
Yeah,
the message is phenomenal. The way of trying to convey the message is there has to be a better way. There just has to. But again, man, it took me 6.5 years of undergrad, Freddie. I'm not smart enough to figure out a better avenue.
Mark Zeno hit me on Twitter saying if an anthem is not needed to unite us, then a statue should not be able to divide us. We overplay both sides a lot.
The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
I don't know about y'all, but I love a good yardstick measuring contest. Boy, did we have one yesterday between the NFL owners and the NFL Players Association with Ezekiel Elliott in the middle. Joe Lockhart put out a statement. He's the executive vice president of communications for the NFL about receiving multiple reports of the NFLPA spreading derogatory information to the media about the victim in the Ezekiel Elliott discipline case. Then the NFL Players Association, they issued a response saying the statement issued on behalf of every NFL owner is a lie, and they categorically deny the accusations made in that statement. They also said that the NFL should be ashamed for stooping to new lows. Ian, I don't know about you, but anytime we have people who want control, or in the case of the NFL owners, they don't want the NFL players to look at the NBA players and say, boy, that looks nice, that LeBron, Dwayne Wade, Chris Paul can say whatever they like. And the owners go, yeah, speak up. Yeah, why can't we do that? The NFL owners are not ceding control. The Players Association knows that. That's why this whole yardstick measuring contest yesterday was ridiculous and full of it between both of these two.
And right in the middle of it is Ezekiel Elliott and the alleged victim, his ex-girlfriend, Ms. Thompson. I mean, and Freddie, this is one where both sides could easily be right. As a matter of fact, I think both sides are right. Mm-hmm. The NFL.
Explain yourself.
And in the letter they sent to Ezekiel Elliott's camp and his attorneys, cites 3 different instances, where in some form or fashion he put his hands on her in an aggressive way that was, and for lack of a better term, a form of domestic violence. Now, we have to say alleged because he was not ever charged or convicted in a domestic violence crime. But in the court of the National Football League, he is guilty of that very thing. And if it's 3 different instances, Freddie, one, I'm with Jim Trotter on this one, our NFL insider. Why is it only 6 games if you believe that there was 3 different instances where this happened? Now, that's what the NFL is saying. The NFLPA is saying, whoa, wait a minute. His ex-girlfriend, where this all allegedly happened, we have text messages of her telling him, I'm going to ruin your career by accusing you of domestic violence. And the NFL actually admits, yes, she did falsely accuse him on one particular instance, and also tried to get one of her friends to go along as a witness and falsifying an accusation. And the NFL knows that this particular one was BS. Then you also have the NFLPA coming out with, hey, she's trying to blackmail him, or once tried to blackmail him, with a sex tape where she wanted $10,000 and then $20,000 for an alleged sex tape. So, Freddie, now the NFL comes back and says, wait, now we're going victim shaming? Is that what we're doing? Then the NFLPA comes back with, wait a minute, that's not what we're doing. This is all factual.
My yardstick is bigger than your yardstick.
Exactly.
No, my yardstick is bigger than your yardstick.
Tell me if I'm crazy here, but I really believe that both sides are, in some form or fashion, correct. Where the NFL is not going to do a year-long investigation and to suspend their leading rusher last year and one of their rising stars on a team called the Dallas Cowboys for 6 games unless they found something. And on the other side, Ms. Thompson, guess what? You did lie to investigators, and you did try and have a friend go along with your lie. And the NFLPA does have emails and texts about a blackmail scam, where she tried to blackmail him or was going to blackmail him about some sex tape, to the point where she even had an email address to the tune of EzekielElliottSextape.com or something like that. Freddie, wow. I really do believe that to some degree, both sides are correct, which means this thing is going to get not just nasty, but in just the bottom of the sewer type ugly.
Well, here's the deal with that. I think they're already there with the statements they put out yesterday. They've been there for a while because both of these two entities have had nothing but an adversarial relationship. That's not stopping anytime soon. That's number one. Number two, and you can believe or don't believe or who you want to believe, however you want. It comes down to the fact that if this had happened 3 years ago, Ezekiel Elliott's getting a 1-2 game suspension because the NFL was so inconsistent with their disciplines and penalties back then.
Still are.
They don't want to be inconsistent anymore. That's why they put the 6-game suspension as a baseline. If Ezekiel Elliott had been a part of all the stuff, 160-page report, by the way, on what they thought they found out or what they found out from the investigation with Ezekiel Elliott and Ms. Thompson. 160-page report that the NFL has that we will not be party to because we're not ever going to see that. We may never get to the bottom line of that truth. But if this had happened 2, 3, 4 years ago, because of that inconsistency, that's why they are where they are, meaning the NFL. They don't want to look bad in the court of public opinion when it comes to domestic violence or alleged domestic violence. And, yeah, Ezekiel Elliott had a rookie season for the ages. The NFL did not give a blank, especially when they did not want to have people look at them with stink eye. And people are going to continue to look at them with stink eye anyway because they've been consistently inconsistent this whole time. But they want to make sure that, hey, we are steadfast in doing this. They're putting out the illusion, both the NFL and the NFL Players Association, that they actually care. We know the NFL does not care about players, especially if they're not on the field producing for them. That's what it comes down to. And the NFL Players Association, it seems to me, Ian, they pick and choose who they want to support. I'm not saying they should not support Ezekiel Elliott in this situation, but where are they with Colin Kaepernick? Silence from the National Football League Players Association. They pick and choose what they want and who they want, just like the NFL and the owners. That's why we got this big pile of wrong or big pile of right when you got the players on one side, the owners on the other side, and both of these two are determined to not come together. I go back to Josh Brown. 1-game suspension.
And that's inconsistency.
Right. They put him on the exempt list. Yet now they want to make an example because they don't want to look bad when it comes to that ever again.
And there was more public knowledge on Josh Brown than there is on Zeke, even though a lot of that is now being, or some of it is being leaked out via the media to the public. I'll say this also, Freddie. Remember, Ezekiel Elliott is not some choir boy.
No, he's not an angel in this. You're right. Yeah, we have. Yep.
I mean, we got into this, many a time on our show, on Freddie and Fitz at night here on ESPN Radio.
11 p to 2 a.m.
Well done. My bad if we're not doing it. The St. Patrick's Day Parade incident, which I was there for that, being based in Dallas, Texas, when he grabbed that woman's breast and then exposed it. That alone is worth 2-3 games to me. Alone. Forget everything else that may or may not have happened. But again, to your point, NFL versus NFLPA, I think to a degree both sides are correct, and this thing is going to be a nasty, nasty fight.
The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
Nick Saban is always going to be Nick Saban. He is the boss of college football. As a matter of fact, Ian will get a chance to be around him and Jimbo Fisher of Florida State. That'll be part of the college football radio coverage on ESPN Radio on that first Saturday in September, Alabama, Florida State, at the Mercedes-Benz. I can't call it just the dome. It's more like a colossus.
It's a spaceship.
Absolutely. By the way, your favorite person, Coy Wire from Headline News, they gave him a tour of the stadium, and there's no Chick-fil-A in there, by the way. They have Chick-fil-A, but there's no Chick-fil-A because they don't serve on Sunday. But they have a Chick-fil-A stand in the stadium that's only going to be used one time when the Atlanta Falcons are going to play.
Well, hold on. On that very note, so there are actually multiple Chick-fil-A stands. Mm-hmm. And for people who don't know, Chick-fil-A is based out of Atlanta. Mm-hmm. And I know has Chick-fil-A gotten to Connecticut yet?
Chick-fil-A's coming, yeah. As a matter of fact, it's here. Yeah, no, it's here in Connecticut. As a matter of fact, where I live in Southington, they're building a Chick-fil-A. Believe me, that's going to be a happy day.
So it's about to be there. So there's a lot of people across the country that have not experienced the greatness of Chick-fil-A. I am 1,000,000% convinced that they are putting serious addictive narcotics in their sandwiches because they're that good.
Yes.
I mean, it is one of the best sandwiches, and the waffle fries are unbelievable. I mean, in the Polynesian sauce, I mean, come on. It's phenomenal.
Stop it. You're making me hungry at 5:03 Eastern time. Knock it off.
But for people who don't know about Chick-fil-A, the original founder is very religious, and he would close his shop on Sundays to honor the Sabbath.
Right.
And when he franchised it out, when you bought a franchise, you were closed. Every Chick-fil-A on the planet is closed on Sundays.
Right.
To me, I think it's a brilliant marketing ploy that he discovered, because if you were on a bender on Saturday night and you woke up, and especially in a college town, and the first thing on your mind was, I need Chick-fil-A. I mean, that's it. I mean, that was a glass of water, some Gatorade Alka-Seltzer, and Chick-fil-A.
Are you speaking from experience?
Yes.
Okay.
And so when you couldn't get it, you were so desperate for it, craving it, that you would go 2 or 3 times that week. So I think it was religious at first, which also turned into, you know what, Pavlov's dog. If I don't ring that bell today, but I ring it a couple times later on this week, guess what? They're going to come every single time.
And they do.
But I do find it ironic that, yes, the home of Chick-fil-A on Sundays in that spaceship known as Mercedes-Benz, which we hope will be ready for.
Oh, they'll be ready.
Bama and Florida State and Georgia Tech, Tennessee, is going to be closed. But
they'll be ready.
That I know I'm being somewhat facetious. The roof won't be able to open. But point is that on Sundays, Atlanta Falcons games, you're in Atlanta. It's the home of Chick-fil-A. This great sandwich, and you won't be able to get it.
Not on Sundays at the Falcons games. Not on Sundays. But when the stadium's open on Saturday for Alabama, Florida State,
you're good.
You're going to be good with Chick-fil-A.
How many taps did you tell me the Georgia Dome had?
By the way, the Georgia Dome, they just closed it. We're going to get the Nick Saban comedian in a second, right here on the Right Time with Bomani and Jones, Freddie and Ian in for Bo today. The Georgia Dome that's just closed had 30 beer taps. That was it.
For 75,000
For 75,000 people per game that would be in there. 30 beer taps. Used to see the look on Mike Urinog, one of our producers' faces. A man who has known a beer or two in his lifetime cannot believe a stadium that big only had 30 beer taps.
That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life.
Well, wait a minute. Apparently they didn't plan.
They were in the bottles and hard booze.
Exactly.
Bottles and liquor.
They probably figured all the liquor was going to be drank before they got into the stadium, so there was no need to add to it.
And we've been in a lot of stadiums, Ian. You and I know how many degenerates are there. You need more than 30 taps.
Right. They only had 30. Now, the new place has over 12,000?
I think he said 1,300.
1,300.
They made up.
Yeah. Either way, Darren Ravel put it out there. They more than made up for the 30 taps. That was part of the joke.
30 to 1,300.
Yes.
In a wraparound TV.
And a wraparound TV.
They call it a halo.
Yes, they do. Either way, Ian's going to be there, product coverage of Bill Rosinski and David Norrie for the first game in that place between Alabama and Florida State. And who knew that Nick Saban, the Alabama head coach, is a comedian? Now, Nick Saban he loves the media about as much as the President of the United States does. Let's put it that way. But he was asked a question about one of his players, and boy, did he fly through that opening.
You know, you guys make all these predictions about everything, about guys that are going to be great players that have been here for 2 years and who's going to win all the games. And I don't even know why we play. Why do we even play? Why do we even have practice? Why do we compete? Why do we coach guys? How do they need to improve? I mean, you guys got all the answers to, how guys are going to be, what they're going to do. Sometimes I wonder, why do we play? Why do we even have practice? Because you guys got all these conclusions already drawn about who's what, how good they are, what they can do. So why would you ask me? That's a part that's puzzling to me. Why would you ask me? I read stuff all the time like, oh, that's nice to know. Where'd that come from? And then you ask me? But Christian Miller has done a nice job. He's had a really good camp. He's doing a good job. Had a lot of production points in the scrimmage, so we're really happy with his progress. And thanks for asking.
It started like it was going to be Mount Saban about to erupt, and then the next thing you know, he pulled a Tosh 2.0.
He couldn't hold it together. Normally, right. and having been in Alabama, WJOX for years, and when Nick Saban first got to Alabama, I was there for his first 2 years. And having been to those press conferences with, by the way, NFL Network's Ian Rappaport used to needle Saban better than anybody, sitting front row and just asking him these point-blank questions, and Saban used to drive him insane. And that's when we used to call it the Nicky's Nuggets, right? Where St. Nick would just go off, man. And it was always about seeing an opening and being able to deliver a message to his players or the fans through a question from the media. So this particular reporter asked a question about linebacker Christian Miller, who they're expecting a lot out of, but he's a sophomore and this and that. And so Saban being Saban was delivering a message to Christian Miller and any other young player on his team. You better bust your butt, because, I know what people are writing about you and you're reading it and you're hearing it, but I don't give a you-know-what. But the best part here is I've never seen this before, Freddie, or heard this before. I
know.
Is at the end, he couldn't keep the rant together because obviously Miller has been that good. Mm-hmm. And in the end, you heard him kind of laughing on, but you know what? Christian has been pretty darn good. And in that scrimmage, he was, 8 quality points. Yeah, so thanks for asking.
And by the way, I'm kind of glad that Nick Saban doesn't show that side more often because, and here's why. Because he's already built it up in our minds who he is. If he did that more often, we would think he's a lunatic. We would think he's completely off his nut. If also he became Nick Saban comedian at every press conference, I didn't mind that because it was pretty cool, especially the way it started off. It didn't seem like we were heading that way with Nick Saban. And all of a sudden, he had fun with it and left everybody in stitches. Right. Yeah. We thought that was going to be another Mount Saban rant, that everybody was going to go hiding and cowering in the fetal position because Nick Saban is about to lose his collective mind. And then he flipped it. Like
I don't think he wanted to, though, Freddie. I think at the end he couldn't quite hold that rant together. And I think maybe in his mind he's imagining the plays that Christian Miller has been making going, but you know what? He has been pretty good. Yeah. And then he starts laughing dang it, I couldn't hold it together.
That was pretty cool. Like we mentioned, Alabama, Florida State, ESPN radio coverage that first Saturday in September. Ian Fitzsimmons, Bill Rosinski, David Norrie be part of the coverage. And, yes, they will have 1,264 beer taps available for you.
Was that the final number?
That's the final number from Darren Ravel, ESPN Business Insider. The Georgia Dome had 30 beer taps. The new showplace, the Mercedes-Benz showplace in Atlanta, will have 1,264 beer taps. So you don't have to drink all the beer. Yeah, I know. A collective, woo, thank God, from everybody that'll be attending that game. What time is the game, Ian, for those who don't know?
Night game, baby, prime time, ABC, ESPN Radio, Saturday night, September 2nd. And as a matter of fact, I will be in Tuscaloosa tomorrow.
Nice.
Sitting down with several Alabama players, just getting ready for that game, including that man-child known as Bo Scarborough.
And that'll be part of an ESPN radio doubleheader, Florida versus Michigan, and then Florida State versus Alabama that first Saturday in September, part of Labor Day weekend.
I'm Jody Avirgan. Have you heard of Blue Apron? Well, now you have. Blue Apron's mission is to make incredible home cooking accessible to everyone. The country's #1 fresh ingredient and recipe service, fresh, high-quality ingredients make the difference, so it's important to know where your food comes from. Plus, it's affordable, easy, and full of surprises. Check out this week's menu and get your first 3 meals for free with free shipping. Go to blueapron.com/30 for 30.
The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
It is The Right Time with Bomani Jones, Freddie, Coleman, Ian Fitzsimmons in for Bo today on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app presented by Progressive Insurance. Art Briles back in college football next season. That's part of Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless, best phones, best networks, no contracts. The lawyer who shall remain nameless, Mark Lanier, told Philip Erickson of the Waco Tribune Herald, that he expects his client to get back into coaching next year. He said, and I quote, to the Waco Tribune Herald, "There's no question this is one step toward him getting back into coaching. He did not want to get back into coaching until he finished through the legal system," end quote. He also said schools have contacted Briles about coaching. He expects that he feels a measure of vindication, Ian, after being dropped from the lawsuit against Baylor University.
All right, a couple of things here, Freddie. One, his attorney was speaking after Jasmine Hernandez's decision today was to remove Art Briles and former Baylor AD Ian McCaw from a lawsuit that at Baylor University, by the way, ultimately settled with Hernandez, and she was one of the original, if not the original, victim that came forward after Tevin Elliott back in 2012, a former Baylor football player. She said that he violated her, raped her, and Tevin Elliott is now serving 20 years in prison. And so Hernandez, the university settles with her, and I don't know if part of the settlement was to remove Art Briles and Ian McCaw from the lawsuit. I have absolutely no idea. It could be part of that settlement. But if I'm Art Briles, Freddie, I'm telling my attorney to shut the bleep up. Because right now, the last thing that you want is to be in headlines. Mm-hmm. You want to disappear. You want to lay low until openings do come up next year. And because I still don't. Yeah,
because his name is still toxic. There's no doubt about that.
Absolutely. But now, guess what? Front page of every single major sports website and non-sports website. That's how big this story is Art Briles' attorney says he'll be back in coaching next year. I'm telling my attorney, I'm firing my attorney. Like, wait, what did you say? He also went on to listen to this quote. He says, quote, "Art feels badly for anybody who was hurt at all, whether through Baylor or otherwise. He's still got a soft heart for a victim of any crime at all. He's cognizant of that."
That's not the lawyer speaking. That's the lawyer saying what Art Briles told him to say. That's why I don't think he would fire his lawyer, because his lawyer would not say that without Art Briles' consent. I believe those are Art Briles' words coming out of the lawyer's mouth.
The lawyer shouldn't be saying that he wants back in football. The lawyer shouldn't be saying anything for Art Briles. The Art Briles needs to lay low. I mean low like and beyond in a ditch, like a ditch the size of the Grand Canyon.
But Ian, we've known about Art Briles. We've had a chance to speak with him. He does not run away from challenges. The more you challenge him, the more he sticks his chest out. This doesn't surprise me, what I heard today.
I got the book Violated by Paula Levine and our good friend Mark Schleybaugh, 3 days ago, and I'm about 100 pages in.
Yeah, I can't wait to start reading that tonight, too.
And let me tell you something, folks. Go get it. And don't eat dinner beforehand because it's or maybe do eat dinner because you're not going to be very hungry afterward. I mean, it is nauseating. And this wasn't a Baylor football problem. This was a Baylor and Waco problem, meaning the city of Waco, Texas. The amount of the cover-up and also just the ineptitude of that university. They had nothing in place for for any kind of domestic violence, any victim of any level. They had nothing in place. And then the police department would just cover things up and not do anything. Zero investigations. I mean, it is nauseating. You also have Art Briles asking telling victims, why are you hanging out with those guys? Those are some bad human beings. Talking about his football players. After his football players that he's describing as bad human beings have done just things to these poor women. And that's your reaction? And your attorney is now talking about, after this book has come out and everything else, he's talking about how Art Briles wants to be back and expects to be back in coaching next year.
Mm-hmm.
Man, honey, hush.
He's not going to
shut
do that.
up.
Ian, he is not going to shut up. Honey, he's not going to hush because Art Briles believes that he's going to be back in coaching. And going back to your point about what you said about Baylor in the book that was written by Paula Levine and Mark Schlabach, when you have never mattered to that level, that Baylor football mattered, it was very seductive. It was a narcotic that people could not get enough of. That's why so many people were willing to look the other way and treated these women, constant women, as collateral damage to the overall good, and I use that word in air quotes, good, for Baylor football, because they had never, ever, ever been regarded as a national championship contender, and there were way too many people down there that were willing to say, this is something that, you guys are making too much out of this. It's the media. It's alternative facts. It's fake news. They were willing to say all of that because they were looked upon as a football power, and that had never, ever, ever happened. That's why so many people, police people, people in administration, Art Briles and his staff, because when they got a taste of all of that, it was too sweet for them to say, this is wrong. We can't continue to do this. Where is the right to make sure this does not continue?
I'll tell you this, Freddie. I would be stunned if any school at any level hired Art Briles next year.
I told you that, didn't I?
Even though he was removed from this lawsuit, I wonder if part of the settlement with Baylor against Jasmine Hernandez, or Jasmine Hernandez against Baylor, I wonder if part of the settlement was to remove Briles and McCaw from that lawsuit. And man, I hope she got paid just a large fortune. But because Lord knows Baylor's got the money.
Exactly.
But Freddie, after I say that, Dave Bliss is on his third job right now.
I know, which is frightening.
And that's for people who don't know and we're too young to remember Dave Bliss, that is another Baylor head coach, basketball coach, who tried to cover up a murder at Baylor.
Well, he did cover it up. He was successful.
Not tried, excuse me.
He was successful until...
Well, it was not successful.
No, I'm not talking about... he got caught. But I'm saying at that time, he was able to do that and got away with it.
And this guy got hired again, and then was just hired by a Christian high school in Las Vegas. So if Dave Bliss can go on his third job and you can win to the level that Art Briles has won, I don't think he would. I wouldn't hire him. And Art was a friend of mine, being based in Dallas. I mean, and I'm still stunned as to everything that happened there. I really am. Even all the, so far removed and all of the time that has passed. But Freddie, when you can win like he did, whether it was at Texas high school football or at Houston, or you make Baylor of all places a national power, I said I would be stunned. Yeah. You know what? I just now talking you through. If Dave Bliss can get another gig, it's sad to say, Briles might be able to get another gig.
That's all well and good. I don't think it's going to happen in 2018.
I hope not.
I don't think it'll happen in 2018. I think his name is still too toxic. There still has not been enough time passed that somebody can spin that. If you're an athletic director or school president, let's say if you report, let's say if your boss is a female.
Good luck.
Yeah,
good luck.
Let's say you're an athletic director and the person you have to report to is a female. Are you going to try to spin that positive so you can win? And think that's going to work?
If your boss is a human being.
Well, that goes that goes beyond the pale. I get that part. But let's say if you're an athletic director and your boss is Miss or Mrs., how can you even go into her office and look in the face and say, hey, I want to hire that guy to turn over our football program?
If you're an athletic director and you are married, right? I mean, how do you look at your bride?
Ian, how many people have done that and looked at their bride and moved on?
I just gave the example, right? Like, hey, Dave Bliss has been hired not once, but he's on his third job. Man. So that's the sad part, Freddie, is that when it comes to winning, man, people will go to dark places to try and get W's.
Yep.
But Art Briles, the guy that I knew, Freddie, I'm still in not disbelief anymore, especially reading Violated. But, man, I don't see how he could get a job next year. And if I'm, again, going back to my original point, if I'm Art Briles, I'm telling my attorney, would you just stop? Don't talk. Let my toxic name go away, and move on. But
no,
and who knows? Who knows in this day and age? Who knows?
When you win and you win like that, you are very, very seductive, and you are a narcotic, and that's what Art Briles is banking on to get another job by next year.
The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
Before we get to Dwayne Wade, maybe join it with LeBron James, got to bring this to your attention. This just came down courtesy of SI.com, Monday Morning Quarterback as well. DeMaurice Smith, who is the executive leader, vice president, whatever he's in charge of when it comes to the NFL Players Association, he has these words, and I quote, "I think that the likelihood of either a strike or a lockout is almost a virtual certainty," end quote. He put that out there on chances of a work stoppage happening in 2021. Ian.
Talk to DeMaurice Smith on MondayMorningQuarterback.com. Great listen, great read from Buckeye Breer. And I mentioned this to him last night, Freddie. Is this a serious thing? And absolutely it is. But right now in the moment for football fans, when he said 2021, I'm like, Breer.
Yeah.
In the moment, we got kickoff in how many weeks?
Mm-hmm. Less than 3. Oh, less than 3, right.
Fans right now, they are worried about their team this season. Is this a massive story? Absolutely it is. But in the moment, and I'm even looking in the mirror, sign me up as with, the 98% of fans that right now, wait, what year was DeMaurice Smith talking about? 20 what? 21? And we're in 17? I'm good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, when we get to that part where there's work stoppage and there's no OTAs and minicamp, as long as we aren't missing games, I'm good. But in the moment, it's still a few years away, Freddie.
Yeah.
I'm good.
So he can talk about something 4 years from now potentially, but crickets on Colin Kaepernick.
And that, Freddie, is a great point. And for people who don't know what you're talking about when it comes to DeMaurice Smith, please, sir, the floor is yours.
By the way, Colin Kaepernick, still without a team. No one from the NFL Players Association supporting him. DeMaurice Smith, the leader of the NFLPA, nothing speaking on his behalf. Crickets. Yet, hey, 4 years from now, oh, my God, a virtual certainty we have a lockout. Everybody, grab your coins. Hold on to your kids. Colin Kaepernick.
Cats and dogs living together, exactly. Right?
Got to keep the mailmen and the dogs away. But Colin Kaepernick, who didn't break any laws, didn't commit any crimes. Crickets from DeMaurice Smith. Yet, hey, 4 years from now, make sure you talk to your parents. Make sure you talk to your kids. It's certain to be Armageddon.
Email your NFL owners, right? Hey, we're going to have a work stoppage, possible lockout.
My star criedy, man.
And so the message is enjoy the season this year and next
year. And
the
next
following year. But come 2021, a pumpkin, we might have a problem.
Geez. The sky is falling. The sky is falling.
And I should have asked Breer last night, and this is why at times I really question my IQ. Well, not at times; it's pretty much daily.
Mm-hmm.
I should have asked him about did DeMaurice bring up Colin Kaepernick? I did not ask him that. I am an idiot.
You would have heard the same thing that Colin Kaepernick has heard. Crickets. That's all you would have heard, dude.
He might have said, yeah, as a matter of fact, I did.
Yeah,
as a matter of fact, he really didn't have anything to say.
It would have been, what's that? Crickets. That's what you would have heard if you had asked him that question. But according to DeMaurice Cricket Smith, he says the likelihood of either a strike or a lockout is almost a virtual certainty when they're talking about a chance of a work stoppage in 2021 when he talked to MMQB, Sports Illustrated's own Albert Breer. Freddie, Coleman, Ian Fitzsimmons on the right time of Bomani Jones, excuse me. I'm getting all tongue-tied thinking about DeMaurice Smith having crickets.
Yep.
ESPN Radio presented by Progressive Insurance. They're the creators of the Name Your Price tool. Choose from a range of coverage options and pick the price that works for you. So Dwayne Wade may be bought out. According to ESPN sources, Nick Friedel of ESPN.com reported this on Wednesday. that he is fully expected, meaning Dwayne Wade, to be bought out at some point within the next 2 months. Right now, if he is not bought out, the Chicago Bulls will have to pay him close to $24 million, 23.8 if you're counting at home. Stephen A. Smith talked about if and when that happens, here are the likely locations for Dwayne Wade and his next team.
I fully expect Dwayne Wade to be gone by the NBA trading deadline, if not before, and it's only going to be to one or two places. He is going to go back to Miami. Pat Riley and them know they should have never lost him. Yeah, they both played a role in it to some degree, but the bottom line is he should have been treated and appreciated a little bit better, and they would have been in the playoffs last year had he been in Miami. And they're going to make sure they get him back. It'll either be this season or he'll make a pit stop in Cleveland for one final championship run with LeBron James before going back to Miami.
So Stephen A. Smith fully expects that Dwayne Wade at a certain point will wind up back in Miami. Not for nothing, Ian. This has LeBron and Dwayne Wade together for LeBron's last year in Cleveland written all over it.
I tend to agree, Freddie. And Dwayne Wade has had a Hall of Fame career. I mean, he's going into the Hall. He has been absolutely remarkable. But Father Time has caught Dwayne Wade. What did he average last year? I mean, pretty decent, 18 points a game.
Yeah, not bad.
He only played in 50-some-odd games, maybe 60 games, right around in there.
Which is what you're going to get from him at this point.
Yeah, and he's going to be 36 in January.
Yeah, he
36.
He averaged 18.3 points, 4.5 rebounds, 3.8 assists in 60 games.
Okay, 60 games.
You're right on it.
So, damn, that was a pretty good guess. All right, so
attaboy.
So, and if memory serves, right, he will be 36 in January. So, what does Dwayne Wade have left? Is he a contributor on a team? Yeah, if he's your number 3 or 4 guy, at best. I mean, because Father Time, when it starts to get you, it doesn't get better. I mean, I think next year he's averaging around 14 a game. Maybe giving you 24 minutes a game, roughly, and you're be getting around 60 games out of him, same as last year. But the numbers are going to decrease. So is he a significant piece in a title run?
No.
I think he's a role player now, Freddie.
Well, he's a role player, but I think he could be the kind of role player you need, giving you 15 to 20 minutes a game with a second unit. That could be a piece, maybe.
But would he do that?
Piece. Yes,
would he come off the bench?
I think he would exactly do that, because Dwayne Wade has to know there's no way someone's committing that kind of money to him to be the man. He would be crazy to feel that way, unless Gabrielle Union has become his agent, his wife, and she's crazy about that too. And she's not even crazy to say that her husband deserves to go out there and get that kind of money and be the main piece or one of the main pieces. At this point in his career, Dwayne Wade clearly knows what he's going to bring. He's not a Robin. He's not a Batman. He's just part of the Justice League. He's Green Lantern right now, and you can have a Green Lantern and make that work if you're part of the Justice League. That's where Dwayne Wade is. Do I think he can still contribute to a championship team? Yes. If you're expecting him to be the main guy, then you're completely crazy, and you commit that kind of money to Dwayne Wade at this point in his career.
There's a certain guy in a movie named Pulp Fiction that said, man, that pride thing, I can mess with you.
Yeah.
Bleep pride. Remember when he was telling
yes.
Bruce Willis, Palooka?
Yes.
Yeah, I got the feeling that Dwayne Wade still has a lot of that pride left. And, man, that other thing known as ego, I don't know if he would be cool coming off the bench, Coach.
I think he would be. Kev says 100% chance that he joins LeBron James, hitting me on Twitter.
I agree with that.
Original 312 says, I say he goes back to Miami. Keep those tweets coming in at the 1-800-Flowers.com Twitter feed, at ESPN Radio, at Coleman ESPN, and at Ian Fitz ESPN. I say he goes to Cleveland. I could see him doing that and playing with LeBron James before they both head to greener pastures. Dwayne Wade to retirement and LeBron James to Los Angeles, either part of the Lakers or the Clippers.
Are you hiring? Do you know where to post your job to find the best candidates? With ZipRecruiter, you can post your job to over 100 job sites with just one click. Unlike other job sites, ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you, it finds them. In fact, over 80% of jobs posted on ZipRecruiter get a qualified candidate in just 24 hours. Find out today why ZipRecruiter has been used to find the most qualified job candidates with immediate results. And right now, listeners to this podcast can post jobs on ZipRecruiter for free. Just go to ZipRecruiter.com/30for30.
The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
Great article, unless you're a fan of the other NFC East teams not named the Philadelphia Eagles. When it comes to Carson Wentz, by the way, we got two guys working on the show that are Eagles fans, so I got to deal with this nonsense for the next 5 minutes. Chris McPherson wrote on PhiladelphiaEagles.com titled Wake Up Call. If I had to build a team, I'd want Carson Wentz at quarterback. The Monday morning quarterback analyst basically said, Andy Benoit said this, that if he had to build a team, Ian, over the next 10 years, he would want Carson Wentz at quarterback over Andrew Luck because, A, he's healthier, and B, he's 3 years younger.
And 2 years ago, I would have taken Andrew Luck hands down.
No doubt.
That's no-brainer. And I was there in Buffalo when – and this is why Bill Polian, Freddie, is a Hall of Famer, and you've heard this story before. But, man, we're standing there getting ready to call the game between the Colts and the Bills, week 1, 2 years ago. And Polian all of a sudden looks at me as we're watching warm-ups, and it's Tim Hasselbeck, Andrew Luck, and he fires one down the middle of the field at Kobe Fleener. And when I say fires one, I mean it was a
right.
Polian goes, he doesn't look right. I went, what?
What? Yeah.
Like, who are you talking about, Fleener?
Pardon moi?
He's like, no, 12. Something didn't look right there. Next thing you know, watches another throw. Just a laser. Something's not right with his.
That may be the weirdest sound effect I've ever heard for somebody throwing a football. It sounds like something out of a Bugs Bunny Looney Tunes cartoon.
But point is, yeah, it was. I mean, he ripped this thing, and Polian. Well, that's why those guys see things that the rest of us don't. And he saw something wrong in his throwing motion, how he was following through, and the next thing you know, 2 weeks later, he's done. He's out. Shoulder injury, throwing shoulder, and he was trying to play through some pain that he had, and he shouldn't have. And this is Polian's words. Man, at that point, it's the beginning of the year. Shut it down.
Yeah.
Get ready for week 4 or whatever, but he tried to play through it because he's a fighter, and now we're still waiting to see the Andrew Luck that we saw taking his team to an AFC championship game, which seems like an eternity ago, but it was only 3 years ago. But you fast forward to now, Freddie, you can seriously make a case for Carson Wentz.
There's no doubt.
If I have to go with one guy for the next 10 years, it's Dak Prescott.
Really?
Quarterback, Dallas Cowboys.
Really?
His upbringing, and how grounded he is. He is not gone a rock star quarterback. Remember that old quote from Bill Parcells, Freddie? You don't want to get caught up in being a rock star quarterback. When he was talking about Tony Romo, when Tony Romo took over for Drew Bledsoe as quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys. And Dak, last year, I know for a fact, being based in Dallas, that there was a lot of local endorsements. I think there was a Cadillac dealership that wanted to give him just a state-of-the-art Escalade to record a commercial. Don't have time. Don't have time for a $90,000 automobile. I've got film to watch, whatever. He refused everything. This young man is beyond grounded. At OTAs, he was the last guy off the field. Minicamp, the last practice, last guy off the field. His attention to detail is remarkable. You ask him when he hears the word interception, you know what he thinks of? His mom, who we lost her to cancer a few years ago. And he says, my mom used to hate interceptions more than anything else. That's why I don't throw INTs. My mom would chew my butt. I mean, he is a remarkably grounded human being that just wants to win. So you can make a great case for Carson Wentz. You can make a great case for Jameis Winston. True. If I got to go with one, I'm going with Dak.
I think I got a better one. Freddie Coleman and Ian Fitzsimmons on The Right Time with Bomani Jones talking about Carson Wentz. According to Andy Benoit of Sports Illustrated, the Monday Morning Quarterback, he said if he had a quarterback to build around for the next 10 years, he would choose Carson Wentz of the Philadelphia Eagles. Ian would choose Dak Prescott of Dallas Cowboys. I would choose Derek Carr of the Oakland Raiders. I think
a great one.
I think he's going to be, and I warned people, I'll never get after the first year. And a couple of Raider fans, I'm talking to you on Twitter right now. Man, Fred, I think this guy's overrated. I don't know what you see in this guy. I said, you give this guy more weapons, and you'll see exactly what I believe you're going to see. Now he's got an Amari Cooper, and believe me, we saw what happened last year. He got injured. The Raiders went downhill immediately. Guys like that had that ability to not only make plays, but rally guys around him to make plays. if that defense gets a little bit better for the Oakland Raiders. They're not on that New England Patriots line, but they could be close on that Pittsburgh Steelers line. Also, keep an eye on the Kansas City Chiefs. I think that team can win that division as well in the AFC West. But Derek Carr, to me, just has that about him that if I could pick a guy for the next 10 years, which could be a new golden age of quarterbacks in the NFL,
that's
Derek Carr, the Oakland Raiders, is that one. He's that
Freddie,
one for me.
To your point right there, Jameis Winston, Dak Prescott, Carson Wentz, Derek Carr, Marcus Mariota. I mean, there is that next wave of quarterbacks, and you always hear, after the Tom Brady, Drew Brees, Phillip Rivers era, right? Eli Manning, Aaron Rodgers. Well, it's good boy. It could be a dark day, or a bad era when it comes to quarterback play in the NFL. Who's out there? Take a look at the next wave coming up. When it comes to that position, there's always, and I do mean always, going to be 4 or 5 guys that separate themselves from everybody else. And it happens like clockwork. Go back to the Staubach-Bradshaw era, right? And then you had Montana in that era. And then, and there was 4 or 5 guys. And there's always going to be 4 or 5 that are better than everybody else. And right now, the guys we just mentioned could be those guys that are going to carry that torch if Tom Brady ever steps.
Cyborgs don't retire.
I was going to say, he might play till he's 70.
He's going to be in a wheelchair, throwing 50 touchdowns. They'll even make the rules more liberal for him to make sure nobody's going to touch him.
Drew Brees, too, Coach. I mean, that guy. Yeah. What's Drew now? Drew's 38?
Drew's up there.
Yeah, I mean, he's creeping up on 4-0.
He's 38. Yep, he's 38 years of age. He's going to be 39 in January.
Here's 5,000 yards and 40 touchdowns for you. Does that sound good, Pumpkin?
Yeah. Well, here's another one. I mean, when is Phillip Rivers ever going to retire?
And you mentioned Kansas City in that division. I think Oakland wins the division. I think San Diego is more of a threat for a wild card than Kansas City. I like the Chargers a lot.
I like the Chargers, but I don't like their health program. They can't keep guys healthy, man. Seriously. Their health benefits must be through the roof because every time I turn around, somebody's getting injured that they're
Keenan
going
Allen,
to need.
Mike Williams.
Yeah, I mean, if they could keep guys consistently healthy or develop their depth a lot better, I'm with you on that. But I look at I always call them San Diego. I look at the Chargers in Los Angeles.
Carson City Chargers.
They're the Carson City Chargers, according to you, until they move to Los Angeles. Every time I look at that team and say, yeah, I want to believe. But then the next thing you know, I'll look in the infirmary, and there'll be players lined up from the Los Angeles Chargers. That's why I'm hesitant about that team getting into the playoffs or even winning that division in the AFC West.
Only they win it, I think they'll be knocking on the door come week 15 and then week 16 going into 17. But as far as one quarterback, it sounded like I surprised you.
You did.
When I said Dak.
Yeah.
Why?
I thought you were going to go Jameis Winston or Marcus Mariota. I thought you were going to go with those two.
Look, man, again, I think we're splitting hairs. I really do.
Because I think Mariota turned the corner last year.
Yeah, but with Dak, it's about the upbringing. It's about his approach to the game, and maybe I'm around him more, being based in Dallas than the other guys. So if I'm literally splitting hairs between those 3 quarterbacks. That's why I went with Dak.
Right. Matt Kelly says Marcus Mariota is a baller. Freddie, you're right on that one. CM Ed Prince says Russell Wilson should be on that list of quarterbacks over the next 10 years. Russell Wilson is never going to get enough credit, in my opinion. He's never going to get it.
I tend to agree with you because the defense overshadows him.
The personality that he has works for that team, but it's not that dominant personality that people are used to seeing from their quarterbacks, and he's completely fine with that. And I think people lose sight of the fact that he's played as an elite quarterback more than a couple of times for the Seattle Seahawks.
The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
I look at a guy now in Andrew Luck, Ian. I wonder how much buyer's remorse he has with the contract, the length of it that he signed with the Indianapolis Colts. And he has to believe, or at least he has to think about, they may not do enough to protect me so I can protect myself with the kind of personnel that they don't have with the Colts. But when does it get to a certain point that we can no longer have excuses to make up for the lack of production when it comes to Andrew Luck in Indianapolis?
Well, here's the thing. I mean, before he got hurt, and this is where people forget how great he was. I mean, he took the Colts to the AFC Championship game. He completed, 66% of his passes? I mean, just over 40 touchdowns. I mean, interception rate was way down, and he led them to that place called New England where teams go to die. And then you lose, and you go home, and you feel shame. I mean, that's it. That's done. I mean, but that's what happens when you run into the Patriots in the Belichick-Brady era, outside of that anomaly every now and then when they have to go on the road, see Denver, and then that's when they lose. But when you have to go to New England, you pretty much have zero chance. I mean, Andrew Luck was he was one of the best in the NFL. Then the shoulder issue happened. I just told the story about when we were calling Colts and Bills week 1 2 years ago, and Bill Polian noticed something was wrong with him in pregame warmups. He never should have started that season.
Right.
And I can't. Of course, that's a Hall of Fame eye versus, my sorry butt. But I didn't see anything wrong with him. He was firing darts 40 yards down the field to Kobe Fleener, now with the New Orleans Saints. But Bill did, and later on in the year, Andrew Luck admitted, hey, it had been lingering. Tried to play through it, couldn't, and he was getting, to your point, Freddie, beaten to a pulp behind an offensive line that Ryan Grigson, the now ex-general manager, completely just ignored.
Mm-hmm.
And he was bringing in – remember, this is the guy that traded for Trent Richardson, gave up a first-round pick for Trent Richardson.
But people did not criticize that trade because they thought that was the running back that Andrew Luck needed. We didn't realize that Trent Richardson was completely done.
Bringing in, Andre Johnson, who looked more like Marcus Pollard wearing 81 than Andre Johnson with the Texans.
Ouch.
I mean, he was done. He was, and I mean, it's so. Then Luck obviously gets hurt, and he's been hurt the last 2 years, and now he hasn't thrown. It looks like he may come off the PUP list by the start of the season, but the key word there is may. But here's the thing, Freddie. If I'm the Colts, I don't have buyer's remorse for giving him that kind of contract because I'm looking at the guy that hey, led us to an AFC championship game. And when he is healthy, he's one of the best in the NFL. The question is, how patient will you be in order to get Andrew Luck healthy again? And, oh, by the way, check the injury report, folks. Ryan Kelly, starting center, first-round pick, and this guy is one hell of a player. Center out of Alabama, out 2 months. So he got hurt in the joint practices against the Lions a couple of days ago, and that diagnosis just came down today. So he is out for 2 months. So if I'm Andrew Luck, I'm also looking at that going, man, my shoulder still feels kind of rough right now, Bubba. When's he coming back? Because that's when I'm coming back.
I think Andrew Luck's problem, his greatest strength has been his greatest curse, and that is he's too tough for his own good.
Yes.
Yes. Mentally, he is not fragile at all. He wants the pressure. He embraces the pressure. He always has had that about him, that no matter what I need to do for my team, I'm going to do it. And Shannon Penn, our producer, related a great story to us. When he was at Stanford, he said, Freddie, he was walking with the tight ends because he was as big as the tight ends. And Zach Ertz at that time was one of the tight ends, a guy that now plays in the NFL for the Philadelphia Eagles. The problem with that is when you have that kind of size, you can get away with that at Stanford. And he was taking a beating then at Stanford. You can't do that in the National Football League at that size at quarterback because that league is going to catch up to you. He's
Cam Newton. Cam Newton.
Well,
they're similar size.
Similar size, similar kind of style. Cam Newton runs a lot more than Andrew Luck. There's no doubt about that. But Andrew Luck is 27 years of age. I guarantee you his body feels like it's 33 years of age with the kind of punishment that he has done or has inflicted on him because of the National Football League, and that's what's going to happen. I wonder how smarter he's going to have to be to protect his body and protect himself, because if the Colts aren't going to do it, then for damn sure, Andrew Luck better do it, or else he could be out of the NFL, or at least a shell of himself, in another 2 or 3 years before he's 30 years of age.
Freddie, to your point about how stubborn he can be, I'm calling Colts Rams 2 years ago. And Aaron Donald absolutely lights up Andrew Luck. But he hung in there in the pocket, steps into a throw, and just gets hit so hard, there was a hole right on the 40-yard line.
Ouch.
I mean, he got driven so firmly into the turf that he went through the AstroTurf, through the concrete, and it could reach down and grab an egg roll from China and come back.
Really?
I mean,
We're
it
going
was
there now,
a
Dale.
devastating hit. Do you know what Andrew Luck did? He starts screaming at Aaron Donald, "It's a great hit, Aaron! Great hit, man! Great hit!" And I'm looking at him. I'm looking at this going, did I just hear that? Is he really? And Aaron Donald kind of turns around like, what?
Yeah, what's going on here? What's happening here?
Quarterback just tell me that I just lit up. Great hit. That is the ultimate example, to your point, where he is so tough and wants to play and win, not just for his teammates, but the fan base, and he thinks that he needs to be earning all those millions, and I mean millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars that they just paid him, but he's been hurt ever since he signed that contract. I think he feels a bit of guilt that he's not out there, but he needs to be patient and wait till he is 100% before he comes back. The question is, Freddie, will he and can he?
Well, what kind of body is he going to have? Well, how effective is he going to be as a quarterback? When for all we know right now with Andrew Luck, and we can't, you can use an excuse or not use an excuse. He may have already given too much of his body to be an effective quarterback and elite quarterback for the rest of his career in the National Football League. Seriously. Because think about his style of play. Now he's going to have to change that style. Can he do that and still be a successful quarterback? I know he's going to put the work in. I'm not worried about that, Andrew Luck. But when your body is taking hit after hit after hit, and now you're coming off a surgery to your shoulder, you kind of need that to throw the football. If you're Andrew Luck, you need that to get things done. If you're not able to be there for week one, and then it turns into week 2, then week 3. You know what Andrew Luck's going to do? He's going to put more pressure on himself. And force the issue, because he always does not want to believe that he is letting people down. He does not want people to believe that about him. And nobody is saying that, but that doesn't mean that he doesn't feel that way.
You say the same thing about Cam Newton?
Cam Newton's different. Cam Newton always has confidence that he's going to find a way. I don't think those two guys are different from that standpoint.
Throwing shoulder, same thing.
Well, Newton has a terrific arm, better arm than Andrew Luck, but Andrew Luck's a better passer than Cam Newton. Cam Newton can win games, and we've seen him do that by the sheer force of his will. He has to be a lot better at knowing when to do it and when not to do it. You can't do it every play in the National Football League. But he doesn't have the pressure on him that Andrew Luck has, trying to be the face of the franchise, being the face of the franchise with the Colts, and not having that kind of help. That's where the difference is to me between both of those guys.
Cam does have more help than Andrew Luck does.
Right.
You're right.
He does. He doesn't. So he can go out and they drafted Christian McCaffrey. They got a better offensive line. Andrew Luck is looking around going, if I don't protect myself, do I trust that those guys are going to do it? I'm not too sure about that.
Thanks for listening to the Right Time Podcast. Please come back tomorrow for more. And don't forget to listen to The Right Time with Bomani Jones from 4 p.m. to 7 Eastern on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
Daddy, where do babies come from?
Honey?
Mommy went to the store.
Oh, well, you see, there's a mommy and a daddy, right?
Right.
And see, when they call Geico, they could save a bunch of money on car insurance.
Oh, really? And that makes them happy?
Yes, that makes them very happy.
That's good.